And Clogherogue has been the glue that has kept families associated to the area. Many born and bred and buttered local Clogher folk return to their mother club to play, often travelling from areas in County Monaghan, Omagh, Ballygawley, Moy and even Belfast. Those dedicated few have had to endure security checks, dark walks past soldiers over the border when no formal crossing was allowed, in order to make the journey to training and matches. They endured these petty hardships because the club has been a constant binding force in our community, because it embodies a sense of belonging and patriotism that goes beyond the interests of the few. The story of Clogherogue has been one of highs and lows, both on and off the field. From the success of winning the Junior Tyrone title for the first time, followed quickly by the loss of several very capable players as a result of conflict in the country in the early 70s, and the resultant struggle during this time to even field a team, the club and its members have overcome adversity.
It started off, mind you, not so good. The first match was down to Drumragh, and we were very lucky to actually draw the game. But then we picked up from there on and things got good and we worked on. And I suppose really one of the best things for us in West Tyrone that time was to beat Omagh in the semi-final, because the Ulster Herald had everything written up that Omagh was the team and blah blah blah.
The team, it was Eglish who played in the final, and I forget the score, but it was a good game. A lot of young players were all coming to stream: Boguses, Pearsons, Charlie McKenna, Patsy McElroy, Eugene McKenna. It's nice to have it to say to won a county junior medal.
Well, the 72 final, I remember of it being a very wet day in particular. Basically, it was a tough match as we went along, but we got our nose in front from the start and kept it there. And we ended up, I think, the winning point. It was actually Eugene McKenna, I think, actually scored the winning point.
Making me break through into senior football, there was a lot of top-class players there at that time, and it made it very easy to come along. The like of Brian Pearson, Sean Pearson, and Pat Tierney there as well was an excellent, probably one of the most skillful players that Clogher had at that time. And then they had a lot of the very strong players, the like of Frank McCahey, Patsy McElroy, boys like that in defence, definitely stood up for you whenever I was a young Cubs playing at cornerback.
I think the start of that particular 72 team was a tournament in Gortin. And I think from that Gortin tournament, winning that Gortin tournament, we knew that we could compete, and we just brought it along. We played Greencastle again then in the West Tyrone semi-final, which was a very tough match. In my memory, I think we drew that, won the replay, beat Omagh in the West Tyrone final, and then against Eglish beat them in the final, I think by 2 points. The championship winning team from 72 progressed into intermediate football. We established ourselves at that stage in intermediate football. From 72, 73, 74 and 75 was competing very, very well. 75 we missed out on promotion to Moortown into senior football. 76 we really were pushing for senior football at that stage. But unfortunately, with the situation in Northern Ireland as it was at that time, we lost a big chunk out of the team. The mainstays out of that team at that stage, as such, Brian Pearson and the Bogues and such, were unfortunate, at that time by the political situation. They were interned in Long Case. So that left us then. We struggled big time then. So it turned out then that instead of going for promotion into senior football, we were back in junior football. So then it was a struggle then again until back up to 85 then.
And we were just sort of reaching our peak. Like most of us only about 19, 20 years of age, and a very young side. And with maybe other young fellas coming into the team, would have definitely, there's no doubt in my mind, would have made a good senior team. But it wasn't to be, which is a pity.
In the 1980s, the club grew stronger, building an infrastructure that spoke volumes about the passion and commitment of our members, with the development of new playing facilities, including a Prunty pitch. This was the result of an energetic committee that embarked on a fundraising draw for the first time and proved to be a far cry from the rush bushes, soft spots and undulating valley of the previous pitch.
Like any club, you want to develop your facilities, and in and around the early 80s, a few of us got together, Kevin McConnell and myself and Damien were probably the new kids in the block, or a younger generation, and for the first 2 or 3 years we heard all the talk about needing to develop this rush field that we had, and it was full of rushes, and it was like lopsided on both sides, and we talked about it for long and hard, and we eventually took the bull by the horns, and in the first stage of the level it, and Rusty was starting out that time with O'Neill's engineering in Killeisland, but we got him on board for a 2-year period, and he overseen the whole engineering aspect of the drainage and the pitch development, and we eventually then had a meeting, and we decided the best option was to go for Prunty Brothers, who were the creme de la creme in terms of pitch development, and they had developed a new system at that time, a sand carpet pitch finish.
As a matter of fact, it was the first pitch that Prunty done in Tyrone, and it was a very successful job he done, and it created a lot of interest from different places around Ulster. You know, people were coming to see this job that Prunty had done, you know.
We had 3 stages of development. We had the pitch, we had the club rooms, and then we had the stand, and I suppose there's a natural progression. When you had one done, you moved on to the next one, and the major strain was probably raising finance, but we had 3 major draws that really did help us, you know, get on our way, and I think I remember looking back and adding up, I think we spent over almost 820 odd thousand over the course of the last 30 years, and you know, with that sort of investment and money spent, you know, we're not in debt, and it's a great testimony to the future generations of people that come on to play and want to be involved in Clogher Club.
I was asked to look after the mowing of the pitch, and at that time I thought, well, it'll be a rota system, I'll do a year or maybe 2, and then, but that's 25 years ago now, so I'm still doing it. And I remember one time we were doing a tidy up job at the field, and we hired one of those cherry pickers, you know, and Christopher Keenan was the man who was selected to paint the goal posts right up to the top, you know, and he operated this cherry picker himself within the basket, you know. I remember one time we were doing a tidying around the fences and that and mowing, and there was a lawnmower there, and Seamus, he wrote his name on the pitch with the lawnmower. And Eugene got all excited about this, and he says, "This will never come out of it, you know." But within a week, like, it was growing out again, you know. But there was a few lads then used to bring the cars and trailers down. I think Charlie would have been one of them, and Seamus Turney would have come down with a van and trailer, and they would gather up all the grass and draw it away around the far side of the pitch and tip it out, you know. But the youngsters then, like Kevin McKenna, he'd been jumping through the grass and messing about, and so they were Killian, like. They wouldn't been really helping them at all, like, but they probably thought they were.
There'll be days like this, all my mama told me. There'll be days.
The new facilities spawned success on the pitch, with the senior team winning the Junior League in 1985, a year after the GAA celebrated its centenary.
I'd go back maybe a year or so before it, and there had been the whole collective effort back in, I think it was about 84, 85, on the fundraising front, to develop the pitch. And I think within that there was a real sense of club unity, spirit, camaraderie had come together. And yes, we had that over and sort of largely out of the way with when the 85 season began, but I think that sort of was sitting in the background.
And then the breakthrough came when we had Seamus Doyle came in as manager. Damien McKenna would have been club treasurer at the time, and him and Damien would have been very great. So Damien somehow talked Seamus Doyle into coming in and taking Clogher on, and it turned the whole thing round. We had a very good youthful team coming through that time.
Seamus Doyle was very strong trainer at that time, very good, very knowledgeable. Such, I remember one occasion down on the Ballygolly training field, Seamus Doyle will always bring this up, where he never was assaulted on a football field before until I assaulted him with a flag. Do I have any regrets about it? I do, yes, that I missed the target.
But it was great probably in the mid-80s to get somebody coming in who had a bit of experience of playing football at a very high level, had good ideas, and those ideas blended very much with the style of football that we want. The players were keen to play at that time. We got extremely fit. We had lots of people were keen to train, even though we didn't have a home pitch. And I think that whole sense of camaraderie was as much to play a part as the training, in terms of getting people out. It was a great year, and there were loads of leaders in that team. It was a very good team. I go back to the line out. You had the likes of Kevin McConnell, who was very much an inspirational leader, led by example on the pitch. You had all the Bogues. You had Tommy, you had Pat Turney, you had Mickey Turney, you had Noel Bogue, you had Hughie Bogue playing as well. There were loads of leaders on the pitch, so it was all about everybody putting in their effort on the pitch on every day that we went out. And I think we were fortunate. We had a good team, we were in good shape, and we played a nice wee brand of football that I think everybody enjoyed. But we had a fairly potent forward line. When you look back at it, we had good free takers left and right. We had prolific scorers in Sean McCahey, Benny Bogue. Kevin wouldn't have been the most prolific scorer. Kevin Rusty wouldn't have been, but he'd have set so much of it up. You had Hughie Bogue there as well. You had Martin Moynihan. You had a lot of really good, talented forwards about the place. You had a strong midfield. You just had a well-balanced team and a bit of strength and depth within the squad, which was really useful to have.
The 1990s saw further development of St Patrick's Park, with new changing rooms in 1994 after another fundraising draw. Now tugging out for training meant a warm shower and cosy changing rooms. A stark contrast from the early days of using Fatima Hall or the nearby shed, now the site of the courtyard shops, before trekking down to the pitch, encountering tall, strong nettles on bare legs, pushing through a turnstile that didn't quite turn, crossing 500 yards of pasture while dodging cattle until finally reaching the pitch. For anyone who didn't feel like that trek, the order of the day was the trees to the side of the pitch, which provided some meagre shelter to change. And the only shower, of course, was the rain.